Hello friends, I thought you want to watch super hit movie Wicked in English. Then you must like this video. If you are visiting our channel for the first time, don't forget to subscribe to our channel. Friends, in today's video, the movie we're going to talk about is called Wicked. We will talk about what this movie is and where you can watch it, all the interesting facts about this movie in today's video. I'm going to tell you, I'm also going to give you all the information on which OTT platform or on which satellite channel you will watch this movie. Also, we will talk in detail about the technical department, music department, pre-production filming, post-production, budget, box office collection of this film. We will also talk about the story of this film, and I will also give you a small review of the story of this film. Apart from this, we will discuss about the facts of this film's storyline, star cast, actors' performance in the film, and which character has played which role. That's why I request you friends to watch this video till the ends. So let's start the video. Wicked, titled on screen as Wicked Part 1, is a 2024 American musical fantasy film directed by Jon M and written by Winnie Holzman and Dana Fox. It is the first installment of a two-part film adaptation of the stage musical of the same name by Stephen Schwartz and Holtzman, which is loosely based on the 1995 novel, in turn based on the Oz books and the 1939 film The Wizard of Oz. The film covers the musical's first act. It stars Cynthia Erivo as Elphaba Throp and Ariana Grande-Butera as Galinda Upland, with Jonathan Bailey, Ethan Slater, Bowen Yang, Marissa Bode, Peter Dinklage, Michelle Yeoh, and Jeff Goldblum rounding out the principal cast. Set in the land of Oz, before Dorothy Gale's arrival from Kansas, it follows Elphaba, the future Wicked Witch of the West, and her friendship with her classmate Galinda, who becomes Glinda the Good. Universal Pictures and Marc Platt, who both produced the stage musical, announced the film adaptation in 2012. After a long development and multiple delays, partly due to the COVID-19 pandemic, Chu was hired to direct, with Erivo and Grande cast in 2021. The adaptation was split into two parts to avoid cutting plot points and expand the characters' journeys and relationships. Principal photography began in England in December 2022, was interrupted in July 2023 by the 2023 SAG-AFTRA strike, and was resumed and completed in January 2024. Wicked premiered at the State Theatre in Sydney, Australia, on November 3, 2024, and was theatrically released in the United States on November 22. It received positive reviews from critics, was named one of the best films of 2024 by the American Film Institute, and won Best Film at the National Board of Review. Its other accolades include 4 nominations at the 82nd Golden Globe Awards, winning Cinematic and Box Office Achievement, and tied with Conclave for a leading 11 nominations at the 30th Critics' Choice Awards, including Best Picture. It has grossed $680.6 million worldwide on a $150 million budget, becoming the highest-grossing Oz-related film, the highest-grossing musical film adaptation of all time, the highest-grossing musical film released by Universal Pictures, and the 6th highest-grossing film of 2024. The sequel, Wicked, for Good, is scheduled for release in November 2025. Plot: in the land of Oz, the citizens of Munchkinland celebrate the recent death of the Wicked Witch of the West. Glinda the Good joins the festivities and tells the witch's story. Born from an affair between the wife of then-Governor Throp and a traveling salesman, she was ostracized from birth due to her unnaturally green skin and suffered a troubled childhood. No one mourns the wicked. When asked if she and the witch were friends, Glinda reveals they knew each other from their school days. Years earlier, Elphaba Throp arrives at Shiz University to see off her paraplegic younger sister Nessarose. Dear old Shiz. Madame Morrible, Shiz's Dean of Sorcery Studies, offers to privately tutor Elphaba after witnessing an unintentional display of her magical abilities. Elphaba accepts in the hopes that it will allow her to meet Oz's ruler, the wizard, and be de-greenified, the Wizard and I. To her discontent, she is forced to room with bubbly Galinda Upland. The two clash constantly. What is this feeling? One night, Elphaba follows Dr. Dillamond, a talking goat who faces discrimination as one of Shiz's last animal professors, to a meeting of animals off campus. Dillamond reveals other animals are losing their civil rights and ability to speak, but Elphaba assures him the wizard will set things right, something bad. Rebellious transfer student Fiyero Tigalar, arranges to take a group of students to the Ozdust Ballroom, dancing through life. Galinda convinces Bach Woodsman, a happy-go-lucky munchkin with a crush on her, to invite Nessarose so she can accompany Fiyero. At the Ozdust, Galinda learns from a begrudging Morrible that she will be allowed to join the sorcery seminar at Elphaba's request. Elphaba arrives and is ridiculed for wearing a hat that Galinda gave her as a backhanded gift. A guilty Galinda dances with her, Ozdust duet, and later gives her a makeover, popular. Dr. Dillamond announces that animals are no longer allowed to teach at Shiz and is forcefully removed from his classroom. His replacement, the unscrupulous Professor Nicodic, attempts live experimentation on a frightened lion cub, but Elphaba's magic spins poppy dust over the room, putting everyone except herself and Fiyero to sleep. They escape campus and release the cub into the forest. After sharing a moment, Elphaba laments that Fiyero prefers Galinda over her. "I'm not that girl." Elphaba receives an invitation to meet the wizard, who has heard of her powers from Morrible. Galinda, now shortening her name to Glinda in honor of Dillamond's mispronunciation of it, accompanies her. They ride a train to Oz's capital, the Emerald City, where they affirm their friendship while sightseeing. One short day. After being introduced to the wizard, a sentimental man, Elphaba says she wishes to help the animals instead of changing her skin color. Morrible arrives to witness Elphaba and the wizard's first meeting, and the two encourage Elphaba to read from the sacred Grimoire spellbook. She casts a levitation spell that makes the wizard's monkey guards painfully sprout wings, allowing the delighted wizard and Morrible to use them as spies. Elphaba realizes that they are the ones orchestrating the persecution of the animals, and that the wizard is a fraud with no magical power. Horrified, Elphaba steals the Grimoire and flees. Galinda follows Elphaba and implores her to reconcile with Morrible and the wizard, but Elphaba decides to stop their plans. She bids an emotional farewell to Galinda, who supports her but is apprehended by guards. Elphaba repeats the levitation spell on a broom and escapes the Emerald City. Morrible warns Oz that Elphaba is a wicked witch. The students of Shiz evacuate campus. Fiyero flees the school grounds on horseback, and Governor Throp suffers a heart attack as he and Nessarose receive the news. Meanwhile, Elphaba flies west, leaving Glinda behind, defying gravity. Cast Cynthia Erivo as Elphaba Throp, a misunderstood young woman born with green skin who becomes the Wicked Witch of the West. Karis Musongole as young Elphaba. Ariana Grande-Butera as Galinda Upland, a popular young woman who becomes Glinda the Good. Jonathan Bailey as Fiyero Tigalar, a prince from Winky Country who meets Elphaba and Glinda at school. Ethan Slater as Bach Woodsman, a munchkin in love with Glinda 8. Bowen Yang as Fani, one of Glinda's college friends. Peter Dinklage as the voice of Dr. Dillamond, a talking goat and history professor at Shiz University that befriends Elphaba. Luisa Guerrero was the movement artist for Dr. Dillamond. Michelle Yeoh as Madame Morrible, the Dean of Sorcery at Shiz University. Jeff Goldblum as the Wonderful Wizard of Oz. Marissa Bode as Nessarose Throp, Elphaba's paraplegic younger sister. Cecily Collette Taylor as young Nessarose. Bronwyn James as Shenshin, one of Galinda's college friends. Andy Nyman as Governor Throp, Elphaba and Nessarose's father and the governor of Munchkinland. Courtney May Briggs as Mrs. Throp, Elphaba and Nessarose's mother, who dies after giving birth to Nessarose. Keala Settle as Miss Coddle, the headmistress of Shiz University. Aaron Teo as Average, Fiyero's friend. Sharon D. Clark as the voice of Dulcibert, a talking bear who helps deliver Elphaba during her birth and acts as a nanny to the Throp family. Madeline Wilson was the movement artist for Dulcibert. Jenna Boyd as the voice of Wolf Doctor, who helps deliver Elphaba during her birth. Sarah Mardell was the movement artist for Wolf Doctor. Colin Michael Carmichael as Professor Nicodic, a professor at Shiz University. Additionally, the Cowardly Lion makes an appearance as a cub. Dorothy Gale, a Kansas farm girl who is transported to the land of Oz by a tornado with her dog Toto, is featured alongside the Scarecrow, Tin Man, and an adult version of the Cowardly Lion in a brief cameo early in the film. Robin Guiver performs the role of Chistery, the leader of the Wizard's Monkey Army and Elphaba's favorite winged monkey. Stephen Stanton voices Fiyero's horse. Multiple cameos take place during the One Short Day sequence. Idina Menzel and Kristen Chenoweth, who originated the roles of Elphaba and Glinda in the stage musical, portray the leading members of the Emerald City Players. Former Fierro replacement Michael McCory Rose appears as the Wizomania narrator. Book writer and screenwriter Winnie Holzman exclaims, "He can read it, the Grimmery. He must be a wizard," in a cameo during Wizomania, and composer Stephen Schwartz cameos as the Emerald City Guard, who announces to Elphaba and Glinda that the wizard will see you now. Adam James and Alice Fern appear briefly as Galinda's parents, nicknamed Popsicle and Momsy by Galinda. Sean Prendergast appears as Shiz president and Sharita Stralin as the Shiz librarian. Various West End actors make cameos, including Carrie Ellis, Luke Bayer, Georgina Onuora, and Diane Pilkington. Production. Development. In 2003, the Gregory Maguire novel Wicked, The Life and Times of the Wicked Witch of the West, a revisionist exploration of the characters and setting of L. Frank Baum's 1900 novel, The Wonderful Wizard of Oz, was adapted as the Broadway musical Wicked. The musical was produced by Universal Pictures Stage Division and directed by Joe Mantello, with musical staging by Wayne Cilento. The Broadway production has inspired long-run productions in Chicago, London, San Francisco, and Los Angeles, as well as Germany, Australia, and Japan. It was nominated for 10 Tony Awards, winning 3, and is the fourth longest-running Broadway show in history, with over 7,500 performances running for over 20 years. The original Broadway production starred Idina Menzel as Elphaba and Kristen Chenoweth as Glinda. In a 2009 interview, Maguire stated that he had sold the rights to ABC to make an independent, non-musical TV adaptation of Wicked. It would not be based on Holtzman's script. On January 9, 2011, it was reported by Entertainment Weekly that ABC would be teaming up with Salma Hayek and her production company to create a TV miniseries of Wicked based solely on Maguire's novel. No further information, such as casting, had been revealed yet. Chenoweth, Menzel, Lea Michele, who portrayed Dorothy Gale in Legends of Oz, Dorothy's Return, and Amy Adams were all rumored to be potential leads. Holzman and Schwartz were rumored as potential writers, and J.J. Abrams, Rob Marshall, James Mangold, and Ryan Murphy were all mentioned as possible candidates for director. In December 2012, following the success of Les Miserables, Marc Platt, also a producer of the stage version, announced the film was going ahead, later confirming the film was aiming for a 2016 release. After a long development, Universal announced in 2016 that the film would be released in theaters on December 20th, 2019, with Stephen Daldry directing. By 2024, Holtzman was credited as the sole writer, 35. In August 2024, it was determined by the Writers Guild of America that Dana Fox collaborated with Holtzman on the screenplay and that Craig Mazin contributed additional literary material. Pre-production. In May 2017, Schwartz stated that the film would feature at least 2 new songs. On August 31, 2018, Universal put the film on hold due to production scheduling and gave the film adaptation of Cats the release date formerly held by the film. On February 8, 2019, Universal announced a new release date of December 22, 2021 for the Wicked film. On April 1, 2020, Universal put the film on hold once again due to Universal's shifting release dates amidst the COVID-19 pandemic and gave Sing 2 the 2021 release date, 39. On October 20, 2020, it was announced that Daldry had left the production due to scheduling conflicts. On February 2, 2021, it was announced that Jon M would take over as director. Serving as executive producers would be Schwartz, Holzman, Fox, David Nixay, and Jared Leboff. In August, Alice Brooks was confirmed as the film's cinematographer after working with Chu before on the film version of In the Heights. In November, Ariana Grande and Cynthia Erivo were cast as Glinda and Elphaba, respectively. Grande had previously recorded Popular Song, a remix of Popular from the musical, in 2012 and had performed The Wizard and I, a song from the musical, in the NBC special Wicked 15th Anniversary. Erivo previously had performed I Couldn't Be Happier, an excerpt from the song Thank Goodness, in the PBS special Wicked in Concert. It was reported that Grande auditioned 5 times for the role of Glinda. Dove Cameron, Taylor Louderman, Renee Rapp, and Amanda Seyfried were also reported to have auditioned for Glinda. In June 2022, Chu confirmed the hiring of Nathan Crowley as production designer. On September 21, 2022, it was reported that Jonathan Bailey had joined the cast as Fiyero, beating, among others, actors Ryan McCartan, who played the role in 2018-2019 on Broadway, Cooper Coach, Nick Jonas, and Joe Jonas for the part. In October 2022, it was announced that Jeff Goldblum was in final talks to star as the Wizard. Goldblum completed talks by December when Ethan Slater, Michelle Yeoh, Marissa Bode, Bowen Yang, Bronwyn James, Keela Settle, Aaron Teo, and Colin Michael Carmichael were added to the cast. In April 2024, it was revealed at CinemaCon that Peter Dinklage had been cast as the voice of Dr. Dillamond. On preparing for the role of Elphaba, Erivo told Variety, while expressing her desire to see the stage version on Broadway again before filming, "I'm relearning everything. I want to go and see it again. When I get to New York at some point, I'll pop in and see the show again. That'll be my 5th time." She also said at that time that discussions were underway on what the film will look like, particularly its production design and visual style, and confirmed the hiring of Paul Tazewell as costume designer. Her request to him for Elphaba's costume when she becomes the Wicked Witch of the West involved a Jean-Paul Gaultier collection with a new world, kind of Gilded Age feeling. Erivo also contributed to several other parts of Elphaba's appearance, notably her hair and nails. "I knew I wanted Elphaba to have micro braids, and I wanted her to have a full set of nails for 2 reasons. They are a nod to my culture and a nod to the world of Oz." She also stated, "I imagined that her nails were a part of her magic, that they just grew out of her, and she hadn't yet discovered why, like her green skin." Filming. Principal photography was set to commence in June 2022 at the Sky Studios Elstree facilities in the United Kingdom. In July 2021, Schwartz indicated there were plans to film in Atlanta that year. On April 26, 2022, Chu announced the adaptation would be filmed in 2 parts, Wicked and Wicked for Good, saying, "As we prepared the production over the last year, it became impossible to wrestle the story of Wicked into a single film without doing some real damage to it. As we tried to cut songs or trim characters, those decisions began to feel like fatal compromises to the source material that has entertained us all for so many years. We decided to give ourselves a bigger canvas and make not just one Wicked movie, but 2. With more space, we can tell the story of Wicked as it was meant to be told, while bringing even more depth and surprise to the journeys for these beloved characters." In June 2022, Schwartz confirmed that a new song would be written for one of the 2 films. "We found it very difficult to get past Defying Gravity without a break. That song is written specifically to bring a curtain down, and whatever scene to follow it without a break just seemed hugely anticlimactic. Even as a very long single movie, it required us cutting or omitting things that we wanted to include and that we think fans of the show and the story will appreciate. What we have discussed is that changes need to be additive, to use producer Marc Platt's term. They need to add something to the story or the characters. They can't just be changes to do something different. I feel confident that by the time the movie is made, if we all continue to have the same degree of input, I could have a conversation with anyone who has a question about any of the changes made from the stage show and justify why I think it's better for the movie." On July 18th, it was revealed that with the filming process settled at the newly built Sky Studios Elstree in Borehamwood, England, rehearsals would begin in August with principal photography beginning in November. On December 9th, Chu confirmed on Twitter that filming had begun. On September 23rd, Planning Statement, in support of a planning application submitted on behalf of Western Sky Limited, indicated that outdoor filming would occur at a site being developed at Ivinghoe Turf in Ivinghoe, Buckinghamshire, UK. Early into filming, paparazzi from the Daily Mail were seen flying over the Munchkinland set by hang glider with GoPro cameras attached to their feet as Ariana Grande and the cast and crew filmed No One Mourns the Wicked, the opening number of the first film. The first pictures of Grande in costume as Glinda were leaked online and sparked anticipation. Grande said in an interview for V-Man, "I think we were very spoiled to have done this with Chu. It felt like a teeny little secret student thing. Its intimacy. It felt so small and private until all of a sudden we were outside and the Daily Mail was hand gliding sick over our set. Shooting was planned to take place between April 6th and July 14th, 2023, with principal photography set to wrap with the one short day sequence on July 25th. Filming was suspended from July 13th to November 8th due to the 2023 SAG-AFTRA strike. Filming resumed on January 24th, 2024, and concluded on January 26th. The song vocals were recorded live on set at the insistence of Erivo and Grande. Academy Award-winning production sound mixer Simon Hayes collaborated with Chu on the recordings of the actors' vocals using a variation of the same recording techniques that were implemented on Les Miserables. Chu also cited Steven Spielberg's 1991 film Hook as inspiration for the large-scale sets and practical effects, including 9 million colorful tulips planted on location to surround the Munchkinland set. A paved yellow brick road with real mud and a life-size Art Deco-inspired train to transport Elphaba and Glinda to the Emerald City, which he called the Unlimited One. Chu also cited the 1998 films Pleasantville and The Truman Show as influences on how both Wicked and Wicked for Good thematically portray the Land of Oz, saying, "It helps create this idea of the rebelliousness that this new younger generation are discovering. How far will that take everybody in Oz throughout the course of the whole story of both movies? It's an awakening of a generation. You start to see the truth about things that maybe you were taught differently." The interior of the Wizard's castle was inspired by Hans Polzig's Großes Schauspielhaus. Although the film was described by media sources as a prequel to the 1939 Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer film The Wizard of Oz, it was not allowed legally to be considered as such. The film lists as its source material the musical and the book it was adapted from, which in turn were based on L. Frank Baum's 1900 novel The Wonderful Wizard of Oz, which is in the public domain. The 1939 film is under copyright protection and was not licensed source material. The filmmakers had to toe a fine line between calling the film to mind but not infringing upon it. To that end, Universal had a copyright expert on set to ensure no infringement occurred. Citation needed. The production team worked under the constraint of abiding by the stipulations set forth by Warner Bros., the legal owner of the rights to iconic elements of the 1939 film, via its ownership of Turner Entertainment, which possesses the pre-1986 MGM film library, including the ruby slippers worn by Judy Garland. Therefore, Universal was unable to use them, nor any original character likenesses from the 1939 film. This extended to the green of the Wicked Witch's skin, for which Cynthia Erivo and SFX makeup artist David Stoneman used what they considered a sufficiently different shade dubbed Cynthia Green, named after Erivo. Additionally, the studio was unable to use Margaret Hamilton's signature chin mole of the Wicked Witch of the West, nor could they employ the yellow brick road swirl design for Munchkinland. The expert also ensured that the Emerald City was not too close in appearance to the original Emerald City in the 1939 film. Post-production and visual effects. On February 6, 2024, it was confirmed that Industrial Light and Magic and Framestore provided the film's visual effects, with Pablo Hellman serving as production visual effects supervisor, and that post-production work was in progress, with Chu working remotely with editor Myron Kirstein via communication through the newly released Apple Vision Pro. Throughout editing, Kirstein felt emotionally connected to the film and its story, particularly during post-production work on the Ozdust Ballroom and Defying Gravity sequences, while reflecting on the former scene. "We always felt like the Ozdust Ballroom was basically the set piece we had to get right, because if that didn't work, the rest of the movie was going to fall apart." The sequence involved watching the entireties of every 10-minute-long take of Elphaba and Glinda's dance duet and picking the right portions that provoked the most emotional response. Editing on the entire film was done through Avid Media Composer. Post-production on the first film was completed on September 19, 2024. Music. Main articles. Wicked, the soundtrack and Wicked score. The soundtrack album for Wicked was released by Republic Records' Verve label group, Grande and Erivo's respective record labels on November 22, 2024. In July 2024, it was announced that John Powell had composed the incidental underscore for the film and is set to do the same for Wicked for Good. Jeff Atmajian updated the late William David Brone's original orchestrations for the songs and enlarged the orchestra from the stage version's original 23 musicians to 125 for the film. The recording sessions for the music took place at Air Studios in London, with the musical's original music director Stephen Ormus conducting the song cues and Powell conducting the incidental score cues alongside Gavin Greenaway, all with the London Symphony Orchestra. Greg Wells, Ormus, and Schwartz served as music producers. The score album was released on December 6, 2024. Musical numbers: Overture, The Wicked Orchestra; No One Mourns the Wicked, Glinda, Governor Throp, Mrs. Throp, Traveling Salesman, Dulciber, Wolf Doctor, and Ozians; Dear Old Shids, Students and Glinda; The Wizard and I, Madame Morrible and Elphaba; What Is This Feeling, Glinda, Elphaba, and Students; Something Bad, Dr. Dillamond and Elphaba; Dancing Through Life, Fiyero, Glinda, Bach, Nesseros, Elphaba, and Students; Ozdus Duet, The Wicked Orchestra; Glinda, I'm Not That Girl, Elphaba; One Short Day, Elphaba, Glinda, Wizomania Superstars, and Ozians; A Sentimental Man, The Wizard; Defying Gravity, Elphaba, Glinda, and Ozians; Part 1 Finale, The Wicked Orchestra. Some songs from Wicked for Good appear throughout the score, most prominently For Good, whenever Elphaba and Galinda's friendship is seen or mentioned; Thank Goodness, when Galinda changes her name; and Wonderful, when Elphaba receives her invitation from the wizard. A few days later, the production company released the sing-along playlist on the main digital platforms, while also scheduling this type of screening in cinemas around the world. In this format, viewers are encouraged to sing along live, with lyrics added to the film as if it were a karaoke session. Stage-to-screen changes. Changes for the film include adding new characters: Dulciber, Elphaba's childhood nanny; Miss Coddle, a headmistress at Shiz University; and Galinda's parents, who drop her off at Shiz. The film shows Elphaba's private tutoring sessions, with Madame Morrible in learning how to control her powers. Flashback scenes depicting Elphaba as a child being ridiculed by the children of Munchkinland for her green skin, and more moments to show the dynamic between her and Nesseros as sisters. The sexual content of the novel and the musical, particularly the affair between Mrs. Throp, Elphaba's mother, and the traveling salesman, was toned down for both films to reach a wider audience and attain a PG rating from the Motion Picture Association, MPA. Contrary to the book and the traditional casting of Fanny as a woman in the musical, the character was gender-swapped to a male actor, Bowen Yang. The character arc of Bach was expanded upon for the film, and he was given the surname Woodsman, citation needed. Something Bad is changed to a private meeting of the talking animals at Dr. Dillamond's home off Shiz campus. There, the animals sing to each other about the state of Oz, rather than to Elphaba directly as in the stage show. In the film, Fiyero and Elphaba's first meeting happens in the forest, rather than with a group of classmates at Shiz. Fiyero's musical number, Dancing Through Life, takes place on open grounds on stage. In the film, it starts inside the university's circular, rotating library, complete with an added extended dance break. The Ozdust ballroom portion of the number was both altered and expanded upon, reimagining the ballroom as what Chu called a nightclub in the underbelly of Oz, complete with a musical band with animals playing instruments. The musical number, Popular, is also extended with additional key changes and vocal extensions. The song One Short Day is significantly expanded in the movie to include the Emerald City Players' production of Wizomania, which lays out more of the backstory for the wizard and the Grimmery. The leading players are Idina Menzel and Kristen Chenoweth, who starred in the original Broadway production of the stage musical as Elphaba and Glinda, respectively. The climactic shot of the Defying Gravity sequence, where Elphaba sings her signature battle cry while in the sky at sunset, with green lightning striking through the clouds and her billowing cape growing larger, pays homage to the cherry picker effect used to lift the actress playing Elphaba off the stage during the climax of the song. The sequence itself is also extended to make it work as the finale of the first film, leaving the audience on a cliffhanger with a "to be continued" title card. setting up Wicked for good. Marketing. On April 16, 2023, first-look pictures of the film were released through social media, featuring Erivo's Elphaba and Grande's Glinda. Work-in-process footage from the film, featuring first listens to Grande and Erivo's respective renditions of Popular and Defying Gravity, was then presented at CinemaCon on April 26, 2023, introduced on stage by Universal Pictures chairwoman Donna Langley. The first trailer for the film, in the form of a 60-second first look, premiered during Super Bowl 18 on February 11, 2024. The film returned to CinemaCon on April 10, 2024, to present new footage and mark the first time the cast and crew appeared together in public to promote the film. Costumes and props were also on display in the lobby of the venue during this event. On May 15, 2024, the film launched an interactive website for Shiz University, allowing fans to apply for a 2024 semester at the college before August 15th. In September 2024, influencers on various social media platforms started sharing their acceptance letters and packages from Shiz, containing a personalized acceptance letter from Madame Morrible herself, a map of the campus, a newspaper reporting Prince Fiero spotted at Shiz, a pin, and a university jumper. Other fans who applied received their acceptance letters via email, with those applying late for the college being denied admission. On October 10, 2024, it was announced that the film would launch the Journey Through Oz press tour during the weeks leading up to the film's release, with each city being transformed into some of the film's various locations: Sydney, Munchkinland; Los Angeles, Shiz University; Mexico City, Enchanted Forest; New York, Ozdust Ballroom; and London, Emerald City. On December 26, 2024, it was announced that the film will take part in the 2025 Rose Parade on January 1, 2025, in Pasadena, California, with a 55-foot-long Defying Gravity float covered with 60,000 tulips imported from Holland, along with colorful carnations to celebrate the film's New Year's Eve release on VOD. Poster controversy. On October 9, 2024, to coincide with tickets going on sale, a poster was released with Erivo and Grande as Elphaba and Glinda, respectively, recreating the original poster art of the stage musical. Reception towards the poster was mixed, and it resulted in the creation of fan edits designed to bring the poster closer to the original art, using Adobe Photoshop and generative AI tools. The poster was also mocked with a video made with Runway AI to make it look like Elphaba and Glinda in the image were catfighting. Citation needed. It also became the subject of viral internet memes, including a parody replacing Elphaba with Charlie XCX in a promotional image for her and Grande's remix of Sympathy is a Knife. On October 15, 2024, a Twitter user created their own edit, attempting to more accurately match the movie poster to the original theatrical poster, making edits by obscuring Elphaba's eyes, raising Glinda's hand to cover her mouth, and giving Elphaba smirking red lips. Although many fans considered it an improvement, the following day, Erivo shared a repost of the edited poster on her Instagram story, writing, "This is the wildest, most offensive thing I have seen, equal to that awful AI of us fighting, equal to people posing the question, is your pussy green?" A reference to a 2014 meme. None of this is funny. None of it is cute. It degrades me. It degrades us. The original poster is an illustration. I am a real-life human being who chose to look right down the barrel of the camera to you, the viewer, because without words, we communicate with our eyes. Our poster is an homage, not an imitation. To edit my face and hide my eyes is to erase me, and that is just deeply hurtful. The user later deleted the post out of respect for the actress, saying their intentions were not malicious and they had not anticipated the reaction. However, on October 20th, the user reposted their edit, saying while they felt Erivo's feelings were valid, they stood by the image as an innocent fan edit to pay homage to the original Broadway poster. On October 19th, during the 4th Academy Museum Gala Red Carpet Arrivals, Grande responded to the controversy, saying, "I think it's very complicated because I find AI so conflicting and troublesome sometimes, but I think it's just kind of such a massive adjustment period. This is something that is so much bigger than us, and the fans are going to have fun and make their edits. And I have so much respect for my sister Cynthia, and I love her so much. On October 29th, Erivo was asked by Entertainment Tonight about the nature of her comments and said, "It wasn't necessarily a clapback, because I think I'm really protective of the role. I am passionate about it, and I know that the fans are passionate about it, and I think, for me, it was just like a human moment of wanting to protect little Elphaba. It was a human moment. I probably should have called my friends, but it's fine." Mattel dolls. Mattel has produced a series of dolls for the film portraying main characters Glinda, Elphaba, Fyro, Madame Morrible, as well as Nessarose in a wheelchair. In August 2024, two song snippets from the film, Popular and Defying Gravity, were leaked through a sound chip in their line of singing dolls. In November 2024, the doll box and the manual for many dolls in the Wicked line were found to contain links to the website of the adult film studio Wicked Pictures instead of the movie's own website. Mattel apologized for the error and asked parents who had bought products with the incorrect website to destroy the packaging. In December 2024, Mattel was sued by a mother in North Carolina, citing the emotional distress that she and her daughter had suffered due to the error. Release. Originally announced as one film, Wicked was split into two films in April 2022. The first half premiered in Sydney, Australia at the State Theatre on November 3, 2024, with premieres that followed in Los Angeles at the Dorothy Chandler Pavilion on November 9, 2024, in Mexico City at the Auditorio Nacional on November 11, 2024, and in London at the Royal Festival Hall on November 18, 2024. It was theatrically released by Universal Pictures on November 21st in Australia and Mexico, and on November 22nd in the United States, with engagements in Real D 3D, IMAX, Dolby Cinema, 4DX, ScreenX, and D-Box. This was followed by its Polish premiere as the closing night film of the 32nd International Film Festival of the Art of Cinematography Camerimage on November 23, 2024, with cinematographer Alice Brooks and production designer Nathan Crowley, who received the 2024 Production Designer Award at the festival, in attendance. Advanced screenings of the film took place on November 18, 2024, for Amazon Prime members and for the general public on November 20, 2024. These two screenings marked the only times during the film's theatrical release that most theaters across the United States were simultaneously able to show the film in IMAX, due to Gladiator II taking over most of those screens on opening weekend. A sing-along version of the film was released theatrically on December 25, 2024. The film was previously scheduled to be released on November 23, 2016, December 20, 2019, December 22, 2021, December 25, 2024, and November 27, 2024, with the latter release date to avoid competition with Avatar, Fire and Ash, and Sonic the Hedgehog 3, the former of which was later delayed to 2025 after Thunderbolts, and later Mufasa, The Lion King took its date, before moving forward by 5 days to its current date to avoid competition with Moana 2, with the new date putting it against Gladiator 2. This sparked speculation on whether the film and Gladiator 2 sharing a release date could result in a scenario later termed Glicked, similar to the Barbenheimer phenomenon, which was a result of Barbie and Oppenheimer both being released on July 21, 2023. With the film being released 2 weeks after the 2024 United States presidential election, Marc Platt reflected on the story's increasing relevance in the current political climate, saying, "It's a significant election for both of us, but our story aspires to be about the distance people travel to connect with each other, about seeing the other as not the other, about living in a world where sometimes the truth is not real." The film was screened exclusively for influencers, award season pundits, and entertainment industry personnel on the Universal Studios lot on October 16, 2024. A private screening of the film was held at the home of Kim Kardashian on October 22, 2024, exclusively attended by her family alongside Erivo and Grande. Another private screening took place at the DGA Theater in Manhattan on October 28, 2024, attended by Erivo, Grande, Chu, Platt, Schwartz, original Broadway cast members Kristen Chenoweth, Norbert Leo Butz, and Christopher Fitzgerald, members of the current Broadway cast, and other actresses who had played Elphaba and Glinda on Broadway and national tour over the years. The screening was preceded by a video greeting from Idina Menzel, who could not attend due to rehearsals being underway for the new musical Redwood. A screening hosted by Anna Wintour was held at the Metropolitan Museum of Art on November 14, 2024, attended by the cast members of the film and other celebrities. Screenings for the general public took place at the State Theatre in Sydney from November 20th through November 22nd. Censorship. Prior to its theatrical release in Kuwait, the film was pulled from some theaters due to public ethics. 180. However, the film continues to be screened in various cinemas in the country. 181. Following its release in the United States, right-wing conservative Christian group 1 Million Moms called for a boycott on the film, claiming that it promotes witchcraft and pushes the LGBTQ agenda on families, particularly children. Kristen Chenoweth defended the film in a comment on Instagram, saying, "Everyone knows the 1 million moms are a mere few hundred. Maybe. It's called entertainment, artistry. I am a Christian woman or originated the role of Glinda and all the silliness that these women spew out of hate. No, no, no. I can't help it. I try to love them anyways. For they don't get it. For anyone who wants to see girl power, then go so wicked, on stage or in a movie theater." Localization. The film was released dubbed in a number of countries, following the local productions of the original musical staged along the years. In some dubbed versions of the film, the lead characters were voiced by performers who had previously portrayed them on stage in local productions. Dana Paula and Cici de la Cueva in Latin American Spanish, Myra Ruiz and Fabi Bang in Brazilian Portuguese, and Park Hee-na and Jong Soo-na in Korean all performed as Elphaba and Glinda respectively in the original local productions of the musical. Sabrina Weckerlin, who voiced Elphaba in German, first played Elphaba in 2007 as an alternate in the original German production, while Johanne Milland, who voiced Glinda in Danish, played Glinda in the 2024 Danish production of the musical. Dutch actor Vajan van den Bosch, who played Elphaba in the German production in 2021, instead returned as Glinda in Dutch. Additionally, a few more actors from local original productions made a cameo appearance as dubbers of Idina Menzel and Kristen Chenoweth. That was the case of Willemijn Verkijk, who first played Elphaba in 2007 in the original German production of the musical, and then again in several other international productions, including the original Dutch production in 2011, West End, and Broadway. Verkijk dubbed Menzel in the Dutch and German dubbings, together with Glinda's original Dutch and German performers, as Chenoweth's dubbers, Chantal Jansen and Lucy Scherer, respectively. Maria Lucia Rosenberg, who played Elphaba in the original Danish production in 2011, also came back to dub Menzel in Danish. In a few more dubbings, more cameo appearances were made with Menzel's character, as she was voiced not only by actors who had previously portrayed Elphaba in local productions, but, especially in countries where the musical was never played, also by voice actors who had previously voiced in different languages another major character in Menzel's career, Elsa, from Disney's Frozen. That's the case of Elke Boyle in Flemish, Nicolette Ferredi in Hungarian, Terence Spillman in Brazilian Portuguese, and Annika Hurlitz in Swedish. Opposite to other localizations, which were based on previously existing theatrical versions of the show, 2 days ahead of the film's release, a first-time Norwegian production of the musical was announced to be in the making and scheduled to premiere in 2025. Home media. The film was released on video on demand on December 31st, 2024, in the United States. It will be released on 4K Blu-ray on February 4th, 2025 by Universal Pictures Home Entertainment. Both the digital and physical releases contain the theatrical and sing-along versions of the film, along with bonus features such as extended and deleted scenes and behind-the-scenes featurettes. Reception. Box office. Pre-release. Tickets for Wicked went on sale on October 9th, 2024, the day after Paramount Pictures released their tickets for Gladiator 2. On October 10th, Fandango reported that the film became the site's #2 first-day ticket pre-seller of 2024, behind Marvel Studios' Deadpool and Wolverine, as well as the best PG-rated first-day ticket preseller of the year and the number 3 best PG-rated first-day ticket preseller of all time, behind Frozen 2 and the 2019 remake of The Lion King, both from Disney. According to Deadline Hollywood, Quorum projected Wicked to gross $67 to $74 million in its domestic opening weekend, while Box Office Theory projected it would gross $96 to $150 million, and Box Office Pro projected it would be $125 million, topping the box office ahead of Gladiator 2. Initial skepticism was directed towards the notion that musical films post-pandemic would not be profitable. By the week of its release, projections were raised to a $165 to $200 million worldwide opening and $125 to $150 million domestically, with positive word of mouth and the film's award season buzz cited as the reasons. Performance. As of January 5, 2025, Wicked has grossed $450.5 million in the United States and Canada and $230 million in other territories, for a worldwide total of $680.6 million. In the US and Canada, it made $46.47 million on its first day, which included $19.2 million from preview screenings in the week leading up to its release, $2.5 million on Monday, $5.7 million on Wednesday, and $11 million on Thursday. It debuted with $112.5 million in the US and Canada and $162.9 million worldwide, topping both box offices. It was the largest opening ever for a film based on a Broadway musical, surpassing the $31.1 million domestic opening of Into the Woods, 2014, and the $103 million worldwide opening of Les Miserables, 2012. The following Thursday, it made $16.9 million, the second-best Thanksgiving Day total ever behind Moana 2, $28 million, released the day prior. It grossed $32 million on Black Friday. Wicked grossed $80 million in its second weekend, and a total of $117.5 million over the 5-day frame, dropping by 29% and finishing behind Moana 2. At the end of the holiday weekend, it reached over $250 million domestically, making it the highest-grossing stage musical-to-screen adaptation of all time in the US and Canada, beating the $190 million lifetime domestic gross of Grease, 1978. In its third weekend, it made $34.9 million, remaining in second, for a running total of $455 million worldwide. By December 15, 2024, it had grossed $525 million worldwide, becoming the highest-grossing film based on a work set in the Land of Oz, surpassing the $493 million worldwide gross of Disney's Oz the Great and Powerful. By Christmas Day, the film grossed $392.4 million domestically, becoming the 49th highest-grossing film of all time in the United States and Canada. By December 29, 2024, Wicked surpassed Mamma Mia, 2008, to become the highest-grossing musical film adaptation of all time, as well as the highest-grossing musical film in the history of Universal. Critical response. On the review aggregator website Rotten Tomatoes, 88% of 374 critics' reviews are positive, with an average rating of 7.5 was 10. The website's consensus reads, "Defying gravity, with its magical pairing of Cynthia Erivo and Ariana Grande, Wicked's sheer bravura and charm make for an irresistible invitation to Oz." Metacritic, which uses a weighted average, assigned the film a score of 73 out of 100 based on 63 critics, indicating generally favorable reviews. Audiences polled by CinemaScore gave the film an average grade of A on an A+ to F scale, while those surveyed by PostTrack gave it a 92% overall positive score, with 80% saying they would definitely recommend it. Kyle Smith of the Wall Street Journal called it the most entertaining film of the year and the most dazzling live-action Hollywood musical since Chicago. Jazz Tangcay of Variety called the film a musical masterpiece that is much more than we could have ever expected, and praised Chu's direction, the performances, and the sets and costumes. Antonia Blythe of Deadline Hollywood called it a blast from start to finish, and a delicious, hilarious romp that shows off Erivo and Grande's next-level talent and laugh-out-loud comedy chops. They serve up every number with surprises, delights, and genuine depth. Manola Dargis of the New York Times wrote that Erivo is the strongest draw in this splashy, overly long movie. while Gregory Elwood of The Playlist wrote that Grande often delivers startling depth to her character before jumping into a musical number that will have you grinning from ear to ear. The Ozdust Ballroom and Defying Gravity scenes were both cited as among the best movie scenes of 2024 by Variety and Looper, respectively. Filmmakers Steven Spielberg, George Lucas, Oliver Stone, Joe Dante, Adam McKay, Drew Goddard, William Goldenberg, Reynaldo Marcus Green, Laurel Parmet, Nicholas Stoller, and Joel Taylor praised the film. Bailey was deemed a standout by Peter Bradshaw of The Guardian, writing that he uncorks an outrageous scene stealer as the hetero camp Fierro, 248, and by ABC News' Peter Travers, noting that his performance was a display of song, dance, and acting virtuosity. Dancing Through Life, his character's musical number, has been described as the adaptation's biggest musical accomplishment by Entertainment Weekly's Christian Holub. Odie Henderson of the Boston Globe called the film visually unappealing, commenting that it can't handle the tonal shifts. Authoritarianism and broad comedy make strange and uneasy bedfellows. Christy Lemire of RogerEbert.com similarly said that, when it's all about the spectacle of big, splashy production numbers, this prequel to The Wizard of Oz is thrilling, but that far less effective is the way Chu wedges in the movie's heavier themes of authoritarianism. James Berardinelli of Real Views noted that although Wicked Part 1 has its share of high points, some of which aim very high, the filmmakers seem to have embraced the concept of bloat as a beneficial characteristic. Cultural Impact, Idina Menzel and Kristen Chenoweth, who originated the respective roles of Elphaba and Galinda on Broadway, praised the performances of their film counterparts, with Chenoweth adding, "The whole cast is amazing. John Chu nailed it. I was so moved, emotional, happy, filled with joy." Menzel stated, "The film is so loving and respectful of the original show, but then builds on it in so many beautiful ways I never thought possible." Lorna Luft, one of the daughters of Judy Garland, who portrayed Dorothy in the 1939 film, called the film breathtaking to look at and everything I wanted it to be. LUK's Panache Nyadundu wrote that the film was a much-needed escape with a powerful message of kindness, friendship, representation, and acceptance that was warmly welcomed by audiences in the wake of the 2024 United States presidential election. Nyadundu added, "From LGBTQ+ representation to shining a light on disabilities, animal rights, female friendship, and more, Wicked not only offers escapism to a world of utter fantasy, but equally acts as a sharp reminder of how to navigate a world marred by corruption and discrimination." On November 21, 2024, a clip from the press tour interview in which the journalist Tracy E. Gilchrist told Erivo and Grande that viewers were holding space for the lyrics of Defying Gravity went viral, creating multiple memes. Gilchrist later explained what she meant. "For me, it means being in the moment, not being distracted and feeling something on a cellular level. I think you can hold space with lyrics of a song, one you've heard hundreds of times, and it can suddenly take on new meaning when you're a queer person." The film's choreography for the song "What Is This Feeling" was recreated heavily on TikTok and Instagram Reels by fans and the casts of various Broadway and West End productions. Accolade. Main article, List of accolades received by Wicked, 2024 film. The film received several awards and nominations. It made history as the first fantasy film to win Best Film at the National Board of Review and the first musical film to win since Moulin Rouge, 2001. In addition, it was named one of the top 10 films of 2024 by the American Film Institute. At the 82nd Golden Globe Awards, Wicked won Cinematic and Box Office Achievement and received nominations for Best Motion Picture, Musical or Comedy, Best Actress, Musical or Comedy, Arrivo, and Best Supporting Actress, Motion Picture, Grand. 264. It also tied with Conclave for a leading 11 nominations at the 30th Critics' Choice Awards, including Best Picture. Sequel. Main article, Wicked for Good. The sequel, Wicked for Good, which will cover the events of the musical's second act, is scheduled for release on November 21, 2025. In November 2024, Schwartz and Holzman said they were discussing possible future projects, but did not want to use the titles Part 3 or Part 4. The razzle-dazzle that's Jon M. Chu's bread and butter is on glorious display in Wicked, the big screen version of the beloved Broadway musical. When it's all about the spectacle of big, splashy production numbers, this prequel to The Wizard of Oz is thrilling. Whether we're in Munchkinland, the Emerald City, or the campus of Shiz University, where a young Wicked Witch of the West and Glinda the Good Witch of the North first cross paths. As we've seen from the director's previous films, including Crazy Rich Asians and In the Heights, Chu is uniquely adept at presenting an enormous song and dance extravaganza without getting lost in it. His sense of pacing and perspective draw us in and center us within the swirling fantasy. It helps greatly that he has deeply talented stars in Cynthia Erivo and Ariana Grande, magnetic multi-hyphenates who can meet every physical and emotional challenge of these iconic characters. Following in the footsteps of Idina Menzel and Kristen Chenoweth would seem like a daunting task, but Erivo and Grande bring their own vocal power and dramatic interpretation to the roles of Elphaba and Glinda, respectively. You truly feel the friendship between these opposites, particularly in one beautiful, wordless dance sequence where they forge their unlikely bond, which is moving in its understatement. That's the foundation of this story, so it's crucial that we know their connection is true for its destruction to be meaningful. Far less effective is the way Chu, working from a script by Winnie Holzman and Dana Fox, based on the novel by Gregory Maguire, wedges in the movie's heavier themes of authoritarianism. Yes, they are baked into the story. We know from watching 1939's The Wizard of Oz countless times that the wizard is a con artist who rules by fear. His deception is literally one of smoke and mirrors. That's all in the source material of the Wicked stage production, as well, for which Holtzman wrote the book and Stephen Schwartz wrote the music and lyrics. Here in film form, the tone swings awkwardly between upbeat wonder and dark oppression. This is a world in which minorities are hunted, placed in cages, and prevented from speaking, where a charismatic leader, a playfully evil Jeff Goldblum, persecutes a woman of color. It is not subtle, and it feels all too relevant to our times, despite originating decades ago. It also drags down the energy of this epic tale. And yet, overstuffed as the film is at 2 hours and 40 minutes, this is only part one. Wicked ends where the intermission occurs in the stage show, with part 2 coming in November 2025. It's a lot to ask of an audience. Still, people who love this story and these characters will be delighted, and there's much here for people who aren't familiar with the musical but are looking for a cinematic escape around the holidays. Wicked begins with Grande's Glinda descending majestically into Munchkinland to inform her enthusiastic fans that the rumors are true. The witch really is dead. Then it flashes back to how she and the green-hued Elphaba, the Wicked Witch's first name, became unlikely allies in college. Elphaba has always been bullied and ostracized because of the color of her skin. Glinda, or Galinda as she's known at this point, is a pretty, pampered mean girl who's always gotten her way. Bowen Yang is a hoot as one of her loyal sycophants. But once they're forced to room together, they eventually realize, to their surprise, that they genuinely see each other in a way no one ever has before. Galinda's makeover anthem, Popular, one of the most popular songs from the show, is among the film's highlights, and a great example of the technical prowess Wicked offers. The costume design from Paul Tazewell, West Side Story, and production design from longtime Christopher Nolan collaborator Nathan Crowley are exquisite throughout, but especially here. Alice Brooks' cinematography is consistently wondrous, but her use of hot pink lighting as Galinda's at the height of her power is really evocative. Chu's usual choreographer, Christopher Scott, delivers again with vibrant, inspired moves, particularly in the elaborate Dancing Through Life, which takes place in the school's rotating, multi-level library. Bridgerton star Jonathan Bailey gets a chance to show off his musical theater background here, and he's terrifically charming as the glib Prince Fiyero, the object of both Elphaba and Galinda's romantic interests. Michelle Yeoh brings elegance and just a hint of danger to her role as Madame Morrible, the university's sorcery professor. And Peter Dinklage lends gravitas as the resonant voice of Dr. Dillamond, a goat instructor who, like other talking animals in Oz, finds himself increasingly in peril. But it's that connection between Erivo and Grande that gives the film its emotional heft. Erivo does do much with her eyes to convey Elphaba's sadness and loneliness, and, eventually, her hope and determination. There's a directness about her screen presence that's immediate and engaging, and of course she can sing the hell out of these demanding songs. Grande meets her note for note, and once again displays her comic chops, but it's the little choices that make her portrayal of the perfect Galinda feel human, a jerky perkiness that's slightly dorky. The blonde tresses and array of pink dresses scream confidence, but deep down she's a try-hard whose desire to be liked is her driving motivation. As undeniably crowd-pleasing as Wicked is in its big moments, these smaller and more intimate details are just as magical. Unless you've been living under a rock, you've probably seen some of the promotion for the upcoming Wicked 2024 movie, an on-screen adaptation of the beloved 2003 musical. The movie is star-studded, with Broadway legend Cynthia Erivo as the main character of Elphaba, the Wicked Witch of the West, alongside pop sensation Ariana Grande as Glinda the Good Witch. I'm not exactly an expert on the Wicked musical. My only accreditation is that I saw the musical at Broadway's Gershwin Theater in November of 2018 when I was a whopping 15 years old. Jessica Vosk and Amanda Jane Cooper starred as Elphaba and Glinda, respectively, and I remember being in awe of their talent, so much so that when I heard about the Wicked movie being in production, I was tentatively excited. I'm not sure what the marketing budget is, but it must be insane because this movie is everywhere. Some of the advertising makes sense, like REM Beauty, Ariana Grande's makeup brand, selling pink and green palettes, or Mattel's singing Glinda and Elphaba dolls. However, a lot of the marketing is a little preposterous. For example, Walmart's Great Value brand created mystery color mac and cheese with the options of putrid green or fleshy pink. Even car dealerships are on the Wicked bandwagon, with Lexus's new slogan for their 2024 TX SUV being "Experience Ozy-mazing," and a CGI image of the car driving on the yellow brick road from the Emerald City. Despite all the marketing for this movie, however, the internet's general consensus on the film is mixed at best. The film production has certainly not been without its drama, with Grande's alleged affair with co-star, now boyfriend, Ethan Slater standing out as particularly shocking for fans, especially considering the fact that they were both married at the start of production. However, the most recent drama surrounding the movie this time revolves around Erivo and her reaction to a fan edit of one of the movie's posters. Sounds silly, right? Let me break it down. A fan of the original musical posted on X, formerly known as Twitter, an edit of the 2024 movie poster that was altered to better match the original Broadway playbill. The original post has since been deleted, but the image has already solidified its legacy across multiple social media platforms and can be easily accessed. A change that immediately jumps out to the viewer is Elphaba's red lip instead of the green lip that Erivo wears in the official movie poster. The fan additionally photoshopped Erivo's neutral expression into a smirk and covered her eyes with the shadow of her hat, capturing the mischievous vibe of the original playbill. While Erivo's Elphaba clearly received more alterations, Grande did not escape scot-free either. The edit places Grande's hand higher up to better convey the idea of whispering in Elphaba's ear. Grande's hand placement in the official movie poster is admittedly very low. After the movie poster left fans disappointed, this edit was received positively and quickly went viral across multiple platforms: X, Instagram, and TikTok. Many fans praised the edit as better than the original. However, Erivo had something very different to say. In an Instagram story post, Erivo wrote a scathing statement to her over 1 million followers, calling the edit the wildest, most offensive thing she has seen. She goes on to state, "I am a real-life human being who chose look right down the barrel of the camera to you, the viewer, because without words we communicate with our eyes." Erivo ends her statement with, "To edit my face and hide my eyes is to erase me, and that is just deeply hurtful." Erivo's reaction blew up on the internet, with online comments ranging from comedic to cruel. Articles from Today, Forbes, and BuzzFeed have reported on the interaction, and YouTubers have garnered millions of views for commenting on the drama. Many believe that Erivo took the edit too harshly, conflating a well-intentioned edit to personal criticism of her portrayal of a character. The original creator released a statement regarding Erivo's backlash on the 20th October, stating that fan posters have been around for as long as movies have existed and that they never meant to cause any harm. They go on to justify their edit, saying that their poster is just a homage to the original Broadway poster, just like the movie's recreation is. After the extensive internet backlash, Erivo has admitted that she probably should have called her friends before making a public statement. However, she has not gone back on her words. There may still be a silver lining for the creative team behind Wicked 2024, however. As the saying goes, any press is good press, and this drama has certainly solidified the movie's cultural relevance. If anything, the controversy will have gotten the film on the radar of more potential viewers, therefore potentially increasing sales more than Walmart's dubious macaroni cheese. I wonder what Waters will make of Wicked and its green-hued, deeply sincere heroine, Elphaba, a ready-made meme machine played by Cynthia Erivo in what becomes a showstopper of a performance. Both the character and the actress are the strongest draws in this splashy, largely diverting, tonally discordant, and unconscionably long movie, which is the first installment in a two-part adaptation of the Broadway show Wicked. That juggernaut opened at the Gershwin Theater in 2003 and shows no signs of ever closing. It will presumably still be raking it in when Wicked Part 2 is set to open in November 2025. Like the stage musical, Stephen Schwartz wrote the music and lyrics, while Winnie Holzman wrote the book. The movie centers on Elphaba and Glinda, short for Galinda, Ariana Grande, fiercely perky, witches from the enchanted land of Oz. Written by Holtzman and Dana Fox, it opens right after Elphaba, aka the Wicked Witch of the West, is declared dead. Dorothy is nowhere to be seen. Glinda, aka Glinda the Good, floats in to belt the catchy No One Mourns the Wicked, and subsequently goes down memory lane to relate her and Elphaba's tale, focusing on their tenure at Shiz University, a campus populated by a hard-working ensemble and anchored by a waterfront, Disney-esque turreted castle. Wicked is based on Gregory Maguire's 1995 novel, Wicked, The Life and Times of the Wicked Witch of the West. And the big surprise in each work is that Elphaba isn't as bad as her reputation. Hers is a classic saga of misunderstanding, retooled for contemporary sensibilities, a chronicle of alienation and belonging, inchoate desire and heavy-handed moralizing that on-screen begins in Munchkinland when her father was the governor. Her mother was a cheat, and Elphaba the inconvenient result. At some point, her mother dies, as they do in fairy tales, and Elphaba grows into a sober, bespectacled child, the color of farm-fresh asparagus, Caris Musingol, and in short order, a serious, very talented melancholic. Jon M has made one of the great musicals of our time, a phantasmagorical coming-of-age journey into a land of wide-eyed enchantment, wild dance moves, and colorful magic bubbles. That movie was called Step Up 3D, and it came out in 2010. Though dismissed by critics at the time, that dance-off sequel feels more like a masterpiece with each passing year, an early demonstration of its director's ability to spin new worlds through movement and mood. These talents also served Chu well with his pandemic-hobbled 2021 adaptation of In the Heights. There, the rough-edged musical numbers, blending realism with reverie, gave that ode to the immigrant community of Washington Heights a tumble-down poignancy. Chu's latest, Wicked, is pretty good too, though one misses the sheer attack of his previous work. A massive, some might say swollen, spectacle, it cleaves the long-running hit Broadway musical in two, with the movie's finale coming at the sole act break of the play. Act 2 on stage is quite a bit shorter than Act 1, so one suspects Wicked Part 2 will require new numbers and plot threads to match the heft of the first half. It would be quite a feat. This Wicked is huge in every possible way. Fans of the show will likely adore it, but it only sporadically achieves the demented energy that marks Chu's best work, and that makes the great modern movie musicals sing. Despite being a lot longer, the film is ruthlessly faithful to the play. It opens with all of Oz celebrating the liquidation of Elphaba, the Wicked Witch of the West, who will eventually be played by Cynthia Erivo. That's pretty much where the original Wizard of Oz left matters. But soon, Ariana Grande's Glinda the Good, Elphaba's presumed mortal enemy, floats down in her pink bubble to recount the story of how she and the witch knew each other back when they were young students at Shiz University. Glinda is reluctant to speak at first. The walls of Oz's villages are festooned with anti-witch propaganda. "She's watching you," blares one poster featuring a sinister picture of Elphaba. And while Glinda's tale is meant to answer the question, why does wickedness happen? What it ultimately reveals is that Elphaba wasn't wicked at all, that she was just a girl who was rejected by those around her because of her green skin, and that there was more to her war against the powers that be in Oz than was allowed to meet the eye. Gregory Maguire's 1995 novel, on which the show is loosely based, was written in the wake of the First Gulf War, and the author has said he was partly inspired by Western press reports repeatedly comparing Saddam Hussein to Adolf Hitler as a justification for invading Iraq. At the same time, the book goes to great lengths to show Oz's gradual decline into fascism at the hands of our old friend the Wizard. The stage version, which premiered in 2003, in turn seemed to reflect the racism in the air amid the aftermath of 9/11 and the ramp-up to the Iraq War. "The best way to bring folks together is to give them a real good enemy," is a line from both the film and the play. I suspect this new movie will itself resonate in new ways. The allegory of Wicked is both blunt enough and vague enough that we can adapt it to any socio-political environment we want. That's not a knock. Several masterpieces by George Orwell, a clear influence on Maguire's book, have met the same fate over the years. And both L. Frank Baum's original novel of The Wizard of Oz and the classic 1939 film have fed many interpretations since time immemorial, including a charmingly persistent theory that Baum's real aim was to attack turn-of-the-century American monetary policy. No, really. In other words, the tension between dark metaphor and the sickly sweet fantasyland of Oz has always been there. It's easy to see why. The world over the rainbow is just too surreal and strange to ever be taken at face value. It's gotta mean something. Perhaps that's why Chu hasn't tried to give his movie Oz any genuine reality or weight. Even as his camera swoops through the skies, skims across rivers, or charges through villages, it all feels like pleasant, inconsequential background noise. Anybody expecting Chu to breathe life into Oz the way Peter Jackson did with Middle-earth in his Lord of the Rings epics will surely be disappointed. For all its ambition and cinematic pyrotechnics, Wicked doesn't feel like it's been opened up that much from the source, maybe because the play is already huge and eye-popping. So much of the show consists of speeches, tours, grand expositions, people speaking and singing to and with large crowds. That makes some organic sense in a stage production, but it can be wearying when translated to film. Reinforcing the sense of overarching allegory, the population of Oz is basically a blank mass of imbeciles, easily manipulated and fickle to a fault. They're all chorus, all the time. Meanwhile, we keep waiting for the main characters to show some delicacy of emotion, something subtle and human, something to make us care for them beyond their status as icons or symbols. When things do occasionally quiet down, the actors shine. With her pagoda roof eyelashes and her quicksilver physicality, Grande gives real comic shape to Glinda's popular girl frivolity. She also pokes fun at her own terrific vocal range, tossing errant high notes into simple statements like, "I already have a private suite." Erivo arguably has the harder task. Elphaba is the one who goes from rejection and sadness to love and stridency, and finally, rage. Hers is not a particularly nuanced performance, but this is not a particularly nuanced character. Elphaba's melancholy is as much part of Wicked's spectacle as are the armies of flying monkeys or the swirling shots of the Emerald City. And one of the film's biggest moments is also its quietest. When she finds herself ostracized at a school party because of the soon-to-be familiar black hat Glinda has made her wear, Elphaba creates her own rhythmic dance movements, without any music for accompaniment. On stage, it's a relatively quick bit, played as a prelude to the two protagonists starting to get closer. Here, it's the movie's emotional high point, as Chu and Erivo turn Elphaba's glower from an expression of defeat into one of defiance, thus laying the groundwork for her eventual transformation. I'll admit, I would have enjoyed Wicked a lot more if I were a bigger fan of the songs. But aside from a couple of high points, such as the immortal anthem of rebellion defying gravity, that ubiquitous, tinny, faux pop Broadway beat turns me off instantly. Luckily, the songs don't need my blessing. They've endured long enough that the studio has planned sing-along screenings across the country for later in December. And when Chu does sink his teeth into the numbers, something wonderful can emerge. The film's performance of What Is This Feeling, a showstopper in which our two heroes express their initial loathing of each other, seems to glide effortlessly from late-night split-screen bickering to a rollicking, school-wide extravaganza where everything becomes rhythm. Click-clacking silverware, twiddling fingers, stomping feet, rolling chairs, and screeching tables. This is clearly the work of the magnificent madman who made two step-up movies. Erivo and Grande are, of course, great singers, and they give their all to the songs, for which their vocals were reportedly recorded live on set. They can't afford not to. There's so much more of Wicked here, with several musical numbers having been expanded on their journey from stage to screen. The seams don't show, but the movie can still drag. The grandiosity of theatrical spectacle relies on a sense of wonder very different from the awe generated by the moving image. Being in the same room as the smoke and the cherry pickers and the performers belting out the tunes has a ritualistic fervor that is nothing like the experience of watching something unfold in two dimensions. Wicked, the movie's images are big, to be sure, but they're also often shallow. They don't draw our attention further into the image, nor do they inspire curiosity about this world. They impress in scale, but not in depth. And the film keeps hammering home themes it's established, sometimes to its detriment. Elphaba's feelings of inadequacy and undesirability become less convincing after several notable character turns, especially once we sense where everything is headed. That is perhaps Wicked's greatest problem. Despite its status as a revisionist reinvention of a classic text, so much of it feels preordained, even programmed. We wait not for revelations or surprises, but for affirmation and escalation. Wicked is as enchanting as it is exhausting. Although Wicked is now available for purchase on digital platforms like Prime Video and Apple TV+, the film has continued to put up impressive box office numbers, including adding another $19 million to its domestic total the weekend after Christmas. Wicked's domestic box office total currently stands at $429 million, with another $209 million from international earnings to put its worldwide cumulative gross at $639 million. Wicked's $429 domestic gross puts it inside the top 150 for the highest-grossing movies ever at the domestic box office when adjusted for inflation, which is an incredibly impressive feat. Wicked recently passed Iron Man 2, 2010, on the domestic inflation box office list at $426 million, and after it earns another $2 million or so, it will move past Mission Impossible 2, 2000, which earned $430 million when adjusted for inflation. Wicked has also made history in other categories, including becoming the highest-grossing movie ever based on a Broadway play at the domestic box office, with its $429 million soaring past Greece's $188 million with ease. Wicked is also one of the top 3 highest-grossing movies of 2024 at the domestic box office, falling short of only Deadpool and Wolverine and Inside Out 2 after recently overtaking Beetlejuice and Despicable Me 4. The musical film starring Cynthia Erivo and Ariana Grande is even the 3rd highest-grossing musical ever domestically, less than $50 million behind Frozen 2, but still close to $75 million behind Beauty and the Beast. Wicked's lower international earnings have left it at number 6 on the list of the highest-grossing movies of 2024 at the worldwide box office. Loosely adapted from the Gregory Maguire novel of the same name, Wicked flips the script on one of the most beloved films of all time, offering a timeless critique of division FISM and fear of the other. That's especially poignant in the wake of the presidential election when Wicked's debuted on Broadway in 2003. Variety skeptical theater critic described composer Stephen Schwartz's revisionist take on the iconic villain as strenuous lumbering and overstuffed such withering put-downs may have felt, justified in contrast with the more intimate musicals that had come before, but failed to recognize the level of ambition that could fuel such a pop culture phenomenon, and later support a visionary big screen upgrade, every bit as rich and technicolor extravagant as Dorothy's 1939 pilgrimage over the rainbow, for example, at the end of the first act, when Idina Menzel's Alphaba sang the show's defining number, Defying Gravity. The Broadway production gave audiences the kind of spectacle rarely seen on stage. Cinema has the power to make moments like those even more magical. And so it does in the splendiferous 160-minute first half of a two-part adaptation, which dazzles and delights in the lead-up to a year-long intermission. Looking back, 2003 was the same year The Lord of the Rings wrapped in theaters and in Peter Jackson's epic trilogy, as well as the subsequent Harry Potter and Marvel superhero franchises. Director Jon M finds the model for the sweeping CGI-enabled pageant Wicked was destined to be as expanded by the show's original author, Winnie Holzman, with Cruella co-writer Dana Fox, also credited. The film is still garishly overstuffed, but gloriously so, as Chu embraces the maximalist style that thrills the younger generation in live-action Disney remakes like Beauty and the Beast and The Little Mermaid. It's a great big wedding cake of a movie, garnished with sparklers and tinsel instead of feeling bloated. Wicked has found its ideal form, where every frame comes crammed with the kind of detail that could easily have been distracting. Had a lesser talent than Cynthia Erivo been asked to carry it as the enchantress with the Vertige's complexion? Erivo can hit the notes, no problem, but it's the work she does in close-up conveying the emotional nuances of Alaba's formative years that distinguishes this performance from Annelle's. The latter won a Tony for playing it big, whereas Erivo's subtler approach invites audiences under the character's green-tinted skin. Meanwhile, getting what her heart most desires, Ariana Grande steps into the Glinda role original, aided by Kristen Chenoweth, proving a talented mimic of the Broadway star's singing style, but a slightly stiffer presence on screen, with her long blonde hair and fine porcelain features. Grand nails the little Miss Perfect dimension of Glinda's personality, but lacks her idol's killer comic timing. Even so, she makes a ruthlessly oblivious mean girl, tossing her tresses for attention and soaking up the praise of her peers at Shiz University, including Bowen Young and Bronwyn James as her biggest fans, blankly batting her butterfly lashes whenever her tactics failed to charm the Steck. Movie opens with visuals that simply can't be accomplished live. Tracking past Alphab, hat the adjacent puddle can mean only one thing before taking flight through an open window, following a CG flock of winged monkeys over CG poppy fields, up CG waterfalls, and along a CG yellow brick road toward a CG emerald park city in the distance. None of it looks the slightest bit real, while virtual lens flares and magic hour lighting feel like overkill, though the sequence gives Chu license to be fanciful as he wants with what follows. In short, that's in the end. Heights Helmer immerses audiences where their imaginations did much of the work on stage, starting with an Oz-wide celebration of Alaba's demise before unpacking the Wicked character's backstory, floating to Munchkin Land in a delicate pink bubble. Glinda recalls how she and Alphaba were once reluctant roommates at Shiz, the prestigious school, where Michelle Yeoh's Madame Moral PX Alphaba, already an outcast on account of her pickle-colored pigmentation and wheelchair, using Sister Marissa Bod to be her next protege. That's an honor Glinda had hoped to secure for herself, as moral gifted pupils are groomed to advise the wizard, played by Jeff Goldblum, just the right level of eccentric, who summons Alphaba toward the end of Part 1. Everyone here is in awe of Oz's magical leader Selef Fraud, except for Alpha, who objects to his oppressive policies toward the land's talking animal population, which Chu depicts like the species they are, rather than people in anthropomorphic costumes, which might have been a more charming choice. These fantasy elements assume an unmistakable gravity in our current political climate, demonstrating the flexibility of the film's central allegory. You're not being told the whole story, cautions history Professor Dioc. Damnant, a CG goat with an uncanny resemblance to Peter Dinklage, as he's LED away by the officers of Oz. That line may as well be the motto for Wicked, which aims to show how Alphaba motives have been misunderstood in previous depictions of Oz, including creator elf Frank Ball's OG novels, as the first half of that more complete account. Wicked Part 1 is missing a few key details, like the explanation for Alaba's green skin and why water is her weakness, but manages to stand alone far better than many multiple installment sagas. The episodification of cinema remains a frustration, as does the ballooning of running times, though both strategies allow stories like this to go deeper than one-off of or in Wicked's benefits. From Room to Brief, the talking animal business, which suggests the treatment of Jews under the Third Reich, or the mass deportation of immigrants. For those looking for more contemporary parallels, will have to wait till part 2 here. We get the introduction of Fiyero Jonathan Bailey, a self-satisfied love interest who's the fulcrum in a triangle between Elphaba and Glinda, treated as a third wheel for much of the film. The stud's cocky introductory song, Dancing Through Life, proves a noteworthy exception, demonstrating how well Chu reinvents beloved stage numbers for the big screen. Set in the school library, the dynamically choreographed sequence finds Fiyero stomping on books and spinning on turban-like shelves as Glinda shamelessly flirts and Elphaba ignores him. Part 1 also includes Clud Glindasda, signature song Popular, that amusing makeover immediately follows the scene, most enhanced by Chu's cinematic strategy, where well-chosen close-ups deliver emotional notes undetectable on stage, tricked into wearing a pointed black hat to her first party. Elphaba starts to dance alone, earning derision from her. Classmates' Broadway audiences laughed at the scene, but here, it's heartbreaking, almost excruciating, as Chu intercuts between the earnestness of Elphaba's naive movements and the barely concealed humiliation on her face when Glenda steps in. That's the first glimpse of goodness we get from her character, and a hint at the redemptive transformation that awaits this diva. There's a big difference between a standard 15-minute intermission and the nearly year-long break that separates the two parts of Wicked in theaters. It helps that the film doesn't end with a cliffhanger, so much as Elphaba's embrace of her full potential. Alan Dune Part 1, since Wicked serves as a loose prequel to Victor Fleming's 1939 film, there's a certain amount of mythology to establish, with more still to come. These separate visits to Oz were made by different studios, and certain details like the ruby slippers belong to MGM, now Warner Brothers, though Chu opens with the universal logo of the same period and styles, the logo after the earlier film's font sticking to that same period. Production designer Nathan Crowley gives the Emerald City a stunning Art Deco look, whereas Shiz University looks more Eastern and organic in its influences. Paul Tazwell's astonishingly intricate costumes blend touches from many different decades and cultures, in keeping with a different aspect of Chu's aesthetic. Yes, the filmmaker is going for an antique look in places, but all that digital detail suits something unique to this moment, namely a resolution never before possible. Thanks to both ultra-sharp digital theatrical projection and 4K home formats, home is where Dorothy was trying to get all along. Of course, though Chu clearly designed Wickeds to be experienced the old-fashioned way on the biggest screen you can find, among a crowd of giddy theatergoers, inevitably singing along in some screenings, unlike several recent tuners which tried to hide their musical dimension from audiences. Wicked embraces its identity the way Alphabet does her. Emerald skin turns out such confidence makes all the difference in how they're perceived. A movie adaptation of the famous musical Wicked has long been beset by the weight of expectations, clocking in at 2 hours and 40 minutes while covering just the first act of the Broadway show trailers that looked bland and truncated musical. Clips to name a few, but like its most viral song, the finished product is able to defy gravity and deliver maybe the most crowd-pleasing hit of 2012 that is charming critics and audiences alike. I, myself, had been wary of the film, having never seen the Broadway show, and judging entirely from the trailers, but glowing. Reviews had me hopeful going into my early access screening Wednesday night. To be fair, some of the issues in the trailer do carry over into the finished product. There are consistent lighting issues that unfortunately detract from gorgeous practical sets and otherwise vibrant colors. That's not to say that it is all bad, though. I still found the film to be generally colorful and have that sense of magic throughout it. Simply fell short of the potential if it hadn't been so bizarrely lit at times. Many people are likely not to notice at all. One issue that is entirely inconsequential to anyone else is that our early access screening happened to be in 3D in a small-town theater, notorious at least to us for having an issue with 3D. It is not, as bad as it once was, but the 3D left background characters and sets fuzzy at times, and we are looking forward to a rewatch without the 3D to better appreciate the look of the film in a working 3D theater. The film seems to have a few sequences that would benefit the medium, and there are plenty of close-ups that look nice in 3D. So this is not necessarily a knock on the 3D version of the film at large. None of that really mattered too much, though, as the lead performances from Cynthia Erivo as Alaba and Ariana Grande as Glinda carry you through the story with fantastic directions and choreography from Jon M. This is the best directed musical since Spielberg's West Side Story, where Chu and his performers really shine is in transitioning into the songs. Unlike so many movie musicals, there is never a moment that the songs feel awkwardly inserted into the midst of dramatic acting. Rather, the scenes flow seamlessly into the music and back out, which I think makes or breaks a musical. Evo is powerful as the outcast, Alphaba, and Grande brings impeccable comedic timing. Those worried about whether the singers could bring the acting chops to match the vocals can worry. No longer, the songs are obviously iconic. If you haven't seen the show, the two most popular songs, Defying Gravity and Popular, are both in the first act of Not the Musical, and therefore also in this movie, and performed to perfection by Erivo and Grande. Jonathan Bailey also holds his own as the handsome Prince Fiyero, both in acting and singing performance. Fiero's song, Dancing Through Life, actually features maybe my favorite choreography of the entire film, which I won't spoil here. I also enjoyed a bit of plot brought in, apparently from the books, that are not present in the musical. Regarding talking animals, there are moments that we get to peek behind the curtain at the fascism running amok in Oz, and it is at times spookily resonant, really. The only semi-sour note in the whole shebang is Jeff Goldblum, who kind of just as a Jeff Goldblum as the wizard. While that makes sense for the character of the wizard, it still comes off as Goldblum playing himself and not a distinct character with similarities to himself. Some have criticized Wicked as being half a movie, but as Part 1 films go, this is about as complete a movie as you could ever hope for, while it certainly sets the stage for another piece of the story to come. It felt to me like it completed its narrative arc. The movie sets up the potential for an intriguing second act, one that I personally can't wait to see put to screen. The only way from here is up, as Kermit the Frog and the Hulk discovered it's not easy being green. Now another verdant character is Lul, brought to the screen by lyricist, composer-producers Stephen Schwartz, screenwriters Winnie Holzman and Dana Fox, and director Jon M in an adaptation of Schwartz's Broadway musical. The first of two parts, it's a sugar rush fantasy with the overpowering star presence of Cynthia Erivo. It basically dunks you face down in a hyper-real ball pit of M&Ms for 2 3/4 hours. I don't have Shen Rapture in my DNA, but this movie made a cleaner, sharper cartoon kind of sense to me than the stage show which I saw back in 2011. This film is the prequel origin myth for Schwartz's Emerald supervillain hero, stratospherically upping her status in retrospect. The green-faced Wicked Witch of the West from the 1939 movie classic The Wizard of Oz, based on L. Frank Ball's children's tale. It was a character shrieking, played in the original by Margaret Hamilton, terrorizing Judy Garland's Dorothy, and now we are given a backstory for the pointy hat, the broom transportation, the inky cloak. Though shrouding the protagonist's biological father in mystery, it pulls off the cheeky trick of making us interested in someone we know is destined for an ignominious death by water. How did she get to be so mean? Could it be that what we interpret as meanness is a mythological distortion of strength and defiance? We see her early life as Alphaba, a green-skinned woman who shows up at the Shiz University for witches in Oz and has to share a room with a legally blonde to Princess Galinda, who will grow up to be the Good Witch of the North. Both will have feelings for aristocratic classmate Prince Fiyero, and both will meet their destiny on encountering the legendary Damel, insidious Wizard of Oz himself. The wizard is played with his usual drawly syncopated line readings by Jeff Goldblum. Michelle Yeoh is stately school principal. Madame Moral Jonathan Bailey on corks, an outrageous scene stealer as the hetero Camp Fiyero, a performance to put alongside Carrie Elwes in The Princess Bride, And Andy Nyman is winningly melancholy as Alaba's dad. The governor of Munchkinland, the film rather fudges the identity issue of the Munchkins, making them hardly different in height from the rest of the cast, perhaps due to contemporary views of the offensiveness of the original film's Munchkins. Ariana Grande plays Galinda Ann, almost translucent figure of gauzy delicacy, appearing as if perched on top of an invisible Christmas tree. And though not a natural comic, like Reese Witherspoon or Alicia Silverstone, she gets the laughs, like the smart player she is. But the sledgehammer punch is delivered by Ivo as the wounded, angry, alienated Alphaba in Sunset Boulevard. Norma Desmond famously said that the movies once only needed faces and ROs. Face is the ground zero of this film's blast of entertainment power. She is the film's Rushmore charismatic Huai. And, vulnerable, her face exerts a planetary pull on everything else on screen, and an impossible thing to look away from. She carries the big songs, like The Wizard and I, and she and Grande are great in the mysterious scene in which Alabar arrives at a party, is humiliated in her outfit, goes into a series of mysterious dance moves, which may or may not be an attempt to style out some failed revenge spellcastings, and Grande's Galinda finally joins her on the dance floor, mirroring her moves, the unlikely beginning to their friendship. It's arguable if Wicked could ever be a meaningfully persuasive prequel for the characters in The Wizard of Oz, as we actually see them in the 1939 film, as this would involve canceling their powerfully timeless mythological aura and instead substituting the more banal idea of human development. But this is the joke and this is the story. And what an enjoyable spectacle. It's more detail. I read the book Tweeg about 2 years ago and instantly fell in love. I was so excited when the movie adaptation was announced. However, ever that excitement quickly dissolved after I watched the trailer. The problem with movie adaptations is that many times the film has to cut out parts of the book. This is not possible for a book like Wicked. Every single chapter, every single moment is integral to the story of Alphaba. By taking out even one scene, the entire narrative of the book changes. Some hope was revived after learning the movie would be split into 2 parts, but I still don't think the movie is going to live up to the book. Granted, I only saw a 3-minute and 30-second trailer, compared to reading the 406 pages. My main concern about the movie is that it won't do an adequate job of explaining the numerous traumas of Alaba's life that led her to become the Wicked Witch of the West. The book depicts how others' cruelty affected her life. It demonstrates how others were inherently wicked, and she is just a product of her environment. The book is able to show her grief, rage, loneliness, desperation, and need for vengeance from what I've seen in the trailer. I don't have a lot of faith that this will be conveyed. The movie almost seems to dumb down her experiences. It makes her out to be a girl who was bullied because she was different, who was devastated when her idol turned out to be a fraud, and spurred her into action. It washes over the fact that her mother resented her, the fact that her father was absent, the brutal death of her mentor, her estranged friendship with Glinda, her constant skepticism of Oz, and so much more. It seems to me that the movie is trying to fit Alphaba into the classic trope of a young woman who had a very difficult life and inevitably becomes the villain, instead of letting the events of her life lead the viewers to see how and why she became the Wicked Witch of the West and developed their own opinions of her. Although I have many criticisms of the movie, I do believe it will be good. The cinematography is beautiful and the vocals are outstanding. I'm eager to see Ariana Grande as Glinda. I think she embodies the character. She's bubbly and a little ditzy on the outside, but inside she's extremely caring and passionate. I predict that the movie itself will be a good movie, and I'm definitely going to see it. I just don't think it will compare to the actual book. As much as people are always shocked that I, a movie journalist, have never watched the Harry Potter movies, I can always guarantee a similar reaction whenever talk turns to musical sensation Wicked. Unlike that, other series I have actually seen Wicked, but have never been a massive fan. This shocks people because if there's anything people know about me, it's that I like musicals and horror movies and Paddington, but that's a weird Venn diagram. I've told many people that I think it really only has 2 songs that are genuinely great, popular, and defying gravity. if you're interested and have constantly been told I'm wrong. One time, I was even told that I couldn't be more wrong. So really, was I excited for Wicked, or Wicked Part 1, to use its full title? Not particularly, but could it make me change my mind? Well, while it's now officially been hidden from the marketing, Wicked is only the first act of the musical, so don't go expecting the full experience. It's extremely faithful to the musical, so it uses the show-stopping defying gravity as the natural to be continued beat. But that could frustrate some viewers. To a Wicked skeptic, the idea that half the story would be told in 160 minutes, roughly, as that long as the musical, including interval, was a matter of concern. One of the most impressive aspects of Jon M's adaptation, however, is that you never feel that length. The pacing is expertly handled and musical numbers perfectly spaced out for this two-part adaptation. Writers Winnie Holzman, who also wrote the musical's book, and Dana Fox also include elements from Gregory Maguire's book that the musical left out. The expansion includes new scenes such as alphabet lessons with Madame Moral, but also extended musical numbers extra information. I always knew I'd love the Wicked movie, but I didn't expect to love it this much. As a casual fan of the original musical, as well as John Yu's work, like Crazy Rich Asians, and In the Heights, I knew the project was in good hands. Plus Ariana Grande and Cynthia Erivo seemed like slam dunk casting choices. Turns out all of that is true. And not only is it one of the year's best movies, but it's an adaptation that could go down as one of the best modern movie musicals. Wicked, which is the first of two parts, follows the first act of the Broadway musical. We meet Glinda Ariana Grande and Alphaba Cynthia Erivo as they both attend Shiz University and are forced to room together. What follows is the development of a beautiful friendship that will serve as an emotional linchpin in the story of how Alaba became the Wicked Witch of the Wild West. Overall, it's a beautiful story about acceptance, inner strength, friendship, and why everyone deserves a chance to fly. On top of that, it's also been brought to life with an immense amount of love and care that's infectious in the lead up to seeing Wicked. I heard Ariana Grande and Cynthia Erivo speak many times about how their voices worked so well together when they sang. And let me tell you, it's heavenly when they collide. However, it's not just their singing, it's their acting abilities too. It feels like these two women were born to play Alphaba and Glenn together, and they balance and juxtapose each other wonderfully. The moment I found out Ariana Grande was cast as Glinda, I knew we were in for something special. At her core, the pop star is a theater kid, and I already knew she was a Wicked superfan. All of that is on full display in this movie as she plays the good witch with great humor and heart. The scene that comes to mind that demonstrates all this is the opening number, No One Mourns the Wicked. The scene where she's speaking with the Munchkins is hilarious, but it's quickly put into question as you see the nuanced emotions Glinda is trying to hide as she talks about Alphaba. Then she sings, and hearing Grande hit those operatic notes is breathtaking from there. She thrives as the pink-eyed lady, and that's in part thanks to her fellow, which played by Cynthia Erivo. Now, if you want to talk about a showstopper at the screening, I attended Cynthia Erivo's performance caused 2 rounds of applause when she opens her mouth to sing her first number, The Wizard and I. I got chills. Her vocal performance only gets more and more impressive as she expresses Alaba's greatest hopes and dreams. After that, we see her grow into her power, and by the end, when she sings Defying Gravity, she's a changed and determined wish. So does Grande, which is why they're a match made in heaven. These two have perfect comedic timing. Their voices meld beautifully, and they work through the whole movie to build this sisterhood and make it something you care deeply about. For Wicked to work, you need 2 actresses who can inhabit Alphaba and Glinda more. Importantly, you need 2 women who balance each other out as these characters do. And that's exactly what Cynthia Erivo and Ariana Grande delivered. Director Jon M and choreographer Christopher Scott are also a match made in heaven. The pair have been working together for a long time. The duo and Wicked cinematographer Alice Brooks all worked on In the Heights, another great movie musical. So between Scott's choreography, Chu's direction, and Brooks' cinematography, we get a movie full of perfectly filmed musical moments that's something many, if not most, musical movies don't do well. But when it's done with intention and understanding, It's magical, and it can make a film shine. Wicked has multiple massive musical numbers. Take Dancing Through Life as an example, from Jonathan Bailey's Fiyero, dancing with all the students in the library, to the East Room moment, where Alphabet gets the spotlight. It's full of big sweeping shots of the entire ensemble moving in sync, like the witches. Magic, seeing these massive numbers on the wickedly cool sets, adds to the fantastical fun of this film, and it wouldn't work without it. In Dancing Through Life, getting the close-ups of Bailey showing off his charm gives us the intimate closeness you can't get on stage. Meanwhile, when they zoom out and show the entire ensemble dancing and spinning around the library, you get to see the whole room swoon for Fiyero while feeling the power of a massive group, dancing in unison that you experience when you see a show on stage. Overall, the choreography helps elevate the stories being told and Wicked, and when it's mixed with thoughtful cinematography and direction, what you get is magic through massive numbers like Dancing Through Life. What is this feeling? And One Short Day Chu is able to set his scenes and give us an entertaining into these characters' mentalities, all while showing off the power and beauty of great dance. In Wicked isn't just a movie, it's an immersive experience thanks to incredible set design and an ensemble cast who feels like they came directly from Oz, like the film The Wizard of Oz. Wicked transports you into this magical world via practical sets, and while you are there, you see a cast who look like they've always lived there. Overall, the sets, which are beautiful and real, gave these actors a playground to be their best selves and truly transform into the characters that inhabit this magical world, from Jonathan Bailey waltzing around University, like he's actually a charming prince from Winky Country, to Michelle Yeoh commanding every room she's in as Madame Moral. The entire cast is effortless. Then when you see them on these remarkable sets, they disappear as actors and truly transform into their characters. This is especially true for Grande and Erivo. In the performance of popular Glinda and Alaba's room is overwhelmingly pink, and Grande moves around it like she owns it during this song. As she transforms Alphaba, she bounces through her belongings with ease and comedically uses her props like her W to ask for a ball gown masterfully. These sets are like a playground, and they allow this perfect cast to thrive and transform overall. Wicked is a masterpiece. It builds on its source material and adds a sprinkle of movie magic to an already wonderful musical. In the immediate aftermath, I think it will go down is one of the greatest musicals of all time. And that's all because of how much love, care, and attention the cast and crew gave to this wonderful story. As an Ariana Grande fan, I have been looking forward to her feature film debut, Wicked 2024, since its official release announcement in 2022. The film has been highly anticipated for many people because it is an adaptation of the musical theater classic Wicked. Yet some watchers went in with a pessimistic view of the quality of the movie in comparison to the Broadway production. But I and many others found it to be a refreshing retelling of a beloved story that stands on its own while giving an on-the-nose depiction of the original. Tale the film is the first part of a two-part movie series that releases on November 22nd with two early premieres. On November 18th and 20th, it includes a story of an unlikely and unusual friendship between two witches in the fictional world of Oz. Ariana Grande as Glinda the Good Witch and Cynthia Erivo as Alphaba, the Wicked Witch of the West. The story begins years into the future, with Glinda celebrating the death of Alphaba, remarking how they used to be friends. From this point, the film turns back time to the beginning of their friendship and how they met at Shiz University, a school for witches. Director Jon M, who also directed popular films such as Crazy Rich Asians and In the Heights, adapted the movie from Wicked, the musical based on the novel by Gregory Maguire. The musical casted Idina Menzel and Kristen Chenoweth as Alaba and Glinda, who both had guest appearances in the film that caused many gasps from the audience. At my theater, plans for the adaptation of the musical for cinemas have been circulating for years, but halted due to concerns about being unable to put such a complex two-act musical into a film format. The project was further delayed because of the COVID-19 pandemic, and the final release date was officially announced in 2022 on Chu's Instagram, with a decision to split up the two parts, with the next premiering in late 2025, according to Chu in an interview with NPR. A big part of the casting of Alphab and Glinda was whether they could understand the nuance of these two characters because of how central the evolving friendship between Alaba and Glinda was. In the movie, this makes Evo and Grande perfect for their respective roles because of their connections with their characters and their chemistry on and off screens. Grande's portrayal of Glinda was flawless as she emphasized the character's bubbly and pink persona in a way that is reminiscent of Barbie. Using her wide vocal range, Grande was able to display Glinda's performative and self-absorbed personality through her over-the-top songs. By contrast, Alaba is much more grounded and has numerous ballads in the movie that display her empathy. She also stands out as a character who forms genuine connections with people. For example, Glinda becomes infatuated with Prince Fiero because of his looks and status. Upon meeting him, she forms an almost superficial bond with him. However, Alphaba falls in love with him after seeing his deep care for animals in a world where animals can speak and act like humans but are discriminated against. I found it interesting how the movie uses light and simple imagery to discuss deep themes such as oppression and marginalization through animals not being allowed to speak or coexist with the witches. A standout representation of this is a scene during a class where a GRE chalkboard was revealed with a message on pink chalk that read, "Animals should be seen and not heard." This continuous usage of pink and green imagery was a cohesive element I enjoyed with the pink message, interestingly directly aligning with Glinda's uncaring attitude towards animals and Oz. This nuanced use of color matches the marketing of the movie as a modern and relevant tale in today's society. Central to the movie were the musical numbers, which did not disappoint. The choreography is exactly aligned with the lyrics, which bring classic songs like Popular and Loathing to life in a way that feels fresh. The extended numbers, such as Dancing Through Life, also cleverly align with the characters' narrative arcs. For example, the song initially comprises Glinda and Fiero as the main singers, with Alphaba left out, but evolves into a moment of genuine connection between Alphaba and Glinda, turning it from a shallow and exclusive piece to something more sincere. In terms of cinematography, Wicked makes a bold impression on watchers from the beginning, with visually impressive cinematic techniques such as suspenseful audio buildings, immensely smooth and clever transitions, bursts of pink lighting when Glinda goes overboard, and cameras twisting and turning in shocking ways to follow the action of the scene. These choices gave life to already known songs and plot developments to make them feel like they were tailor-made for the screen. One of my favorite cinematic elements of the film was how magic was woven into everyday moments that made us feel both fantastical and tangible, from Fiero casually doing a flip-off of his horse to Glinda's makeup springing to life. The film made amazing use of their access to CGI and other visual effects to subtly make the film more whimsical. Additionally, the absurdity blended into the dialogue with the subtle addition of fake words like gratitude and pessimistic also to enhance the magical effect. The marketing of the movie has also been widely debated due to Universal Studios' launch of a marketing campaign that was planned to be just short of obnoxious with a 9-digit marketing campaign. While the strong marketing set high expectations for the quality of the movie, I truly believe that the movie lived up to them. Wicked is a must-see for all ages and audiences in theaters, regardless of whether you plan on attending for the guest feature from Idina Menzel and Kristen Chenoweth or the electrifying music numbers. Seeing the film in theaters is an experience that you don't want to miss. This film, directed by Jon M. Screenplay by Winnie Holzman, Dana Fox, produced by Marc, Platt, David Stone, starring Cynthia Erivo, Jonathan Bailey, Finn Slater Bowen, young Marissa Bod, Peter Dinklage, Michello, Jeff Goldblum, cinematography, Alice Brooks, edited by Karen, music by John Powell, Steven Schwartz production. Companies, Universal Pictures, Marc Platt Productions, distributed by Universal. Pictures release, States November 3rd, 2024 in State Theater. November 22nd, 2024. In United States, running time 160 minutes. Country, United States. Language, English. Budget $150 million. Box office $19.2 million. So guys, this is the review of Wicked movie and some information about it. How do you like our today's video? Please let us know by commenting. And if you like this video, please like it, share it, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel. Thanks for watching.